Welcome to Alaska Weather. This is Eric Holloway for March 7th, 2022. A couple options for you. 1-800 number gets you through a phone system, menu-driven forecast. Otherwise, there's the World Wide Web, weather.gov/Alaska. And lastly, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at the email list at the bottom of the page. For hazardous weather with high pressure dominating most of the weather, we do not have any current watch warnings or advisories out for the state, but please, if you tend to venture outside, please look into those watch warnings and advisories. For the satellite image, you can see a nice little low crossing the Alaska Peninsula into Bristol Bay, driving some snow showers through the White Delta into the Kuskokwim Bay region, otherwise some rain and snow showers through Bristol Bay over into Lower Kodiak Island and Lower Cook Inlet. Lastly, there's some pretty good clouds out there in the western Aleutians associated with another low moving towards that area of the state. So there's the ridge of high pressure, 1,049 millibars over the Yukon Territory. Low pressure near the end of the Alaska Peninsula, 1,012 millibars there. Occluded front spreading out into the northern Gulf. Otherwise, some rain showers, as we noted, across much of the White Delta and into the lower Kuskokwim Basin. Also 996 millibar low out there in the western Aleutian, rain and snow showers associated with that system. Otherwise, again, nice weather across much of the mainland. Tonight's weather, high pressure continues to dominate, fog along the Arctic coast and into the Yukon Basin. Otherwise, some blowing snow and snow showers across much of the west. Rain and snow showers through the Bristol Bay region over into Lower Cook Inlet with a trough passing through the area both from the west coast and along the northern Gulf. And lastly, there's the low out there in the western Aleutians, 988 millibar low now with an occluded front. For Tuesday's weather, high pressure continues over the extreme eastern Russian territory, 992 millibar low there near the Aleutians with an occluded front, bringing some rain and snow showers across that region. Otherwise, the trough moving north through the northern Gulf brings some snow showers lingering across much of the mainland into south central, rain showers in the northern Gulf region. Still pretty quiet over in the Panhandle. For Wednesday's weather, troughs continue to drive north with the next system coming into view now just south of the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, some snow showers through much of the mainland, rain showers over the Bristol Bay region, with rain and snow showers across much of the northern Gulf into the Cook Inlet region, and the low out there in the western Aleutians, 989 millibar low, with a continued mixed rain and snow showers out that way. Still pretty quiet out there in the Panhandle, with some rain showers and snow showers across some of the region. For low temperatures, Tuesday morning, 36 in Ketchikan, 32 in Sitka, 28 in Juneau, Yakutat 19, 20 in Anchorage, 30 in Homer, 38 in Ketchikan. 38 in Kodiak, 35 in King Salmon, 8 in McGrath. For high temperatures, Tuesday afternoon, 44 in Ketchikan, 42 in Sitka, 37 in Juneau, 36 in Yakutat, 35 in Anchorage, 40 in Homer, 44 in Kodiak, 42 in King Salmon, 30 in McGrath. Low temperatures Wednesday morning, 28 in Ketchikan, 33 in Sitka, 23 in Haines, Valdez 26, Talkeetna 24, 32 in Homer, 38 in Kodiak, 35 in King Salmon, 19 in McGrath. High temperatures Wednesday afternoon, 41 in Ketchikan, 42 in Sitka, 38 in Juneau, 37 in Yakutat, 36 in Anchorage, 42 in Homer, 45 in Kodiak, 43 in King Salmon, 31 in McGrath. For low temperatures Tuesday morning across the northern slope and interior, 2 in Fairbanks, -5 in Eagle, -7 in Fort Yukon and Actuva Pass, 5, -9 in Ukqiavik, 21 in Nome, 10 in Galena. For high temperatures Tuesday afternoon, 27 in Fairbanks, 14 in Fort Yukon, 6 in Ukqiavik, 31 in Nome, 27 in Galena. For low temperatures Tuesday morning, looking at 9 in Fairbanks, 3 in Fort Yukon, 8 in Eagle, and Actuva Pass 2, -6 in Ukqiavik, 19 in Nome, 15 in Galena. For high temperatures Wednesday afternoon, 28 in Fairbanks, 19 in Fort Yukon, 24 in Eagle, Arctic Village 16, 2 in Ukqiavik, Nome 28, Galena 27, 24 in Tanana. For low temperatures Tuesday morning down through the southwest and Alaska Peninsula, 29 in Bethel, Eniac 27, 33 in Dillingham, Cold Bay 33, Shemya 35. For high temperatures Tuesday afternoon, looking at 37 in Bethel, Aniak 39, Dillingham 37, Cold Bay 40, Shemya 38, St. Paul 35. Low temperatures Wednesday morning, 29 in Bethel, 28 in Aniak, 33 in Dillingham, 32 in Cold Bay, 36 in Dutch Harbor, 34 in Shemya, 28 in St. Paul. High temperatures Wednesday afternoon, 38 in Bethel, 37 in Dillingham, 42 in Cold Bay, 43 in Dutch Harbor, 39 in Shemya, St. Paul 35. For the CPC 6 to 10 day temperature outlook for March 13th through March 17th, cold and much below normal tilts across much of the northeast corner of the mainland, spreading into the northern panhandle. Otherwise, above normal tilts across the Bristol Bay region into Kodiak Island. And for precipitation, drier than normal conditions expected across much of the mainland.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the aviation forecast, starting with flying weather on Tuesday morning, we will be watching some systems coming into the Gulf of Alaska, spreading IFR conditions through the week. But for Tuesday morning, IFR conditions through Kodiak Island and the Southside Alaska Peninsula, otherwise IFR conditions over in the eastern Bering Sea and portions of the YK Delta, otherwise marginal conditions through much of the southwest mainland, portions of the Yukon Basin, and through the Bering Sea. For Tuesday afternoon, looking at spreading IFR conditions into the southern Seward Peninsula and over into the YK Delta, Bristol Bay region, also into the much of the Gulf region and Alaska Range. For flying weather Wednesday morning, again continued IFR conditions spreading through much of the southwest, marginal conditions spreading through most of the mainland now, and IFR conditions down through southwest and into the northern Gulf, Kodiak Island, and Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, IFR conditions out there in the Aleutians. For Wednesday afternoon, IFR conditions spreading through the interior now up into the Yukon Basin as well as the Brooks Range. Otherwise, some IFR conditions in the eastern Bering Sea and northern Gulf. Also some marginal conditions showing up in the Panhandle. For past conditions on Tuesday, Anaktuvik Pass, VFR conditions, same for Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal decrease into IFR conditions. Rainy, VFR decrease into marginal. Same for Windy. Isabel, VFR conditions all day on Tuesday. Mentasta, VFR on Tuesday. Tanita, VFR decrease into marginal. And Portage, VFR decreasing to marginal conditions. Chilkoot and White looks like it's going to be nice flying conditions down there in the northern panhandle with VFR conditions of both Chilkoot and White Pass. For freezing levels Tuesday morning, looking at the surface level cutting across the northern panhandle into south central and out through the YK Delta over into the central Bering. Otherwise elevated freezing levels from between 2 and 8,000 feet in the Gulf of Alaska. For icy conditions on Tuesday, looking at between 4 and 10,000 feet across much of the southwest with those low pressure systems coming in there. And between 2 and 7,000 feet out there in the Aleutians. Otherwise, no icy conditions expected over the Panhandle on Tuesday. For jet stream on Tuesday, looking at a couple jet streaks coming into the mainland down through the Panhandle, 105 knots over the Panhandle there, 100 knots to 90 knots cutting across the Alaska Peninsula into the southwest with mostly westerly conditions across the mainland, up to 70 knots up there in the upper Yukon around high pressure in the Gulf of Alaska, low pressure out there in the Aleutians bringing southerly winds into the Aleutians and otherwise high pressure over extreme eastern Russia. For 9,000 foot winds on Tuesday, high pressure is still in the Gulf there, analyzed at 9,000 feet. Looking at southerly winds coming into the Alaska Peninsula and up into the southwest mainland. Otherwise, northerly flow on the other side of the high pressure, up to 40 knots there across the Panhandle. And again, that low just south of the Aleutians, bringing southerly winds to 45 knots there. And for 3,000 foot winds on Tuesday, high pressure through much of the region. Southerly winds coming into the Gulf with 40 to 60 knots there across portions of the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island. And again, low pressure system just south of the Aleutians, bringing counterclockwise flow up to 50 knots across that region. For turbulence on Tuesday, looking at between surface and 4,000 feet across portions of the southwest Bristol Bay region into Kodiak Island, with considerable moderate, even isolated severe in portions of that area in the upper Alaska Peninsula, otherwise considerable moderate to isolated moderate in the middle Yukon over into the western Brooks Range, again with isolated moderate to considerable moderate in some areas, and finally down there in the Aleutians, surface to 3,000 feet into the central and western Aleutians with isolated severe analyzed out there in the western Aleutians.
Here at the end of the Earth, it still feels like a place for raw exploration and adventure. It's vast in all directions and ground zero for some of the biggest questions we have about the climate. But when we decided to make a series about the frozen places on Earth, we knew there would be one hurdle we would need to jump over first. What is the cryosphere?
The what?
Ooh.
I have no idea.
While I'm aware of the cryosphere, I don't actually know what it is.
It has something to do with ice. All right, that's all I got.
How do you get people acquainted with the cryosphere when most of us don't even know what it is?
Hey, so here we are in Washington, D.C., standing on the roof of NASA headquarters. That's the Capitol building right behind me. And what headquarters does is kind of serve as the focal point to connect the dots.
That's Dr. Tom Wagner, NASA's cryospheric program scientist at headquarters. In short, Tom is responsible for making sure NASA knows what the current status of the cryosphere is.
The cryosphere is everything from the snow that falls by your house to the icy reaches of the Himalayas, to the big ice sheets of Antarctica all the way at the South Pole, and also the frozen ground of the Arctic, and even some of that frozen ground that's currently under the ocean.
If you had to break it down, you'd have a mix of sea ice, snow cover, permafrost, ice sheets, and glaciers.
Right now, our best predictions are that sea levels will rise anywhere from 1 to 3 feet within the next 100 years. 3 feet of sea level rise has the potential to displace about 100 million people, which is a lot of people that need to find new homes.
Our current reality places us at a near tipping point, and the cryosphere is playing a huge part in that delicate balance.
So one of the things people don't know about NASA is that we study the Earth, and we've been doing that since NASA's inception back in the 1950s. And we study the frozen part of the Earth in a variety of ways.
Missions like SNOWX, Airborne Snow Observatory, Oceans Melting Greenland, Operation Icebridge, Arctic Boreal Vulnerability Experiment, and countless other labs and individual researchers stand at the forefront of monitoring the cryosphere. But this year was a particularly big year.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff of Grace Follow-On, continuing the legacy of the Grace mission of tracking the movement of water across our planet.
2 state-of-the-art satellite missions are being launched in a single year as part of a major attempt to understand Earth's frozen places. Our scientists are answering hard questions, sharing stories from the field, and giving their best predictions for what we can expect of a warming world. We're taking you with us as we follow NASA explorers on their journey to the frozen ends of the Earth as they study our rapidly changing world from satellites, planes, and boots on the ground.
What we can do really well from orbit is we can tell when a surface of land is covered in snow. What's tricky is though, how thick is that snow? And it's even trickier how much water is in that snow.
What we think of snow depends a lot on where it falls. If you live in the eastern US, maybe it's fun. Or maybe it's just a pain.
But if you live in parts of the world where they depend on the water that's in the snow for a large fraction of their total water that they use for drinking, for agriculture, for industry, or for hydropower, the snow is a very important natural resource. For example, in the western part of the United States, 80 to 90% of their renewable water comes from snow.
Snow is one part of the cryosphere that many of us have actually encountered before, but it also plays a critical role in regulating the Earth's climate. Through decades of remote sensing, NASA has kept a close eye on the ebb and flow of snow cover.
We now have a 52-year record of snow cover in the Northern Hemisphere, and we can see changes in the extent of snow cover over the time period, particularly in the last few decades, where we can see that the snow cover has been retreating. It's been melting a lot earlier in the springtime.
The extent is relatively easy to do, and it has been done over the years. What's tricky is though, how thick is that snow? And it's even trickier how much water is in that snow.
That tricky part is known as the snow-water equivalent, or how much water would actually be in a layer of snow if it melted. NASA and its partners have taken to the air to help solve this elusive mystery. First, there's the Airborne Snow Observatory, or ASO, a small plane outfitted with a couple of instruments, one of which measures snow depth using LiDAR. LiDAR measures distance using light from lasers. Since 2014, ASO has flown over basins in California and Colorado, taking before and after looks at snow depth. Scientists subtract the snow-free summer data from the snow-on winter data to get an idea of the snow depth. There's no single way to measure all types of snow across the globe, and so NASA's other airborne campaign, SNOWX, is testing different combinations of sensors. This winter, SNOWX will test a new instrument, the Snow-Water Equivalent Synthetic Aperture Radar and Radiometer, or SWISAR.
SWISAR consists of 2 main components, one of them being the radar and the second one being the radiometer.
So with the radar providing the depth of the snow and the radiometer providing the density of the snow, we could put those 2 things together and get the snow water equivalent, Here in the chamber, we're gonna measure different radiation patterns at our different frequencies and do some full system testing in this chamber. This chamber kind of enables us to isolate various types of radiation and interference. And in about a month, we're gonna take the instrument, mount it on a Twin Otter in the Grand Mesa in Colorado, and we're gonna fly it over the Grand Mesa and take various different measurements. This is what we call our engineering flight.
Making sure the sensors are calibrated is key in order to face the challenges nature will throw at them.
Half of the area that gets covered by snow every winter contains trees and forest. And the trees make it difficult for the sensors to see the snow that's underneath the trees, so it makes it difficult for us to measure how much snow there is. After the snow's had a chance to sit on the ground for a while, it gets denser and denser and denser over time, and it changes. Which is another reason why snow is very challenging to remotely sense. It doesn't stay the same, it's constantly changing. One of the things that we often do in the field is go dig what we call a snow pit. We literally dig a pit in the snow so we can see all the different layers. The layering is very important.
All this digging is part of ground truthing SnowX, a way of matching up what the airborne instruments see and what is actually sitting on the surface. The ultimate goal of SnowX is to figure out what the best combination of instruments would be for a future satellite mission in order to get a global picture of snow.
We need to know how much snow is in a snowpack, because if we have too much snow and the snow melts too fast, then you can get flooding. And if you don't have enough snow, or if the snow melts too early, that can lead to a longer wildfire season, a more intense drought, and we need to know these things for water resource planning.
After we had a record that was about 15, 20 years long, we started noticing that the extent of the ice in the Arctic was getting smaller over time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Looking at the marine forecast, starting with the ice edge. Lower concentrations of ice have been noted just north of Nunivak Island and in the Kuskokwim Bay and just off the Waikiki Delta. Otherwise, some lower concentrations of ice there in Bristol Bay and Cook Inlet region. Tuesday's marine forecast for southeast inside waters, winds generally from the northerly direction at 15 to 25 with gusts of 40 there in Stevens Passage. Seas as high as 5 feet. Outside waters, winds generally from the east at 15 with seas as high as 9 feet. So look for small craft advisories out there with those waves. For Wednesday's marine forecast, winds generally from a southeasterly direction in the inside waters, 15 up to 15 to 20 with seas as high as 4 feet. Outside waters, winds generally from a southeast at 25 with seas as high as 7 feet. For Tuesday's marine forecast for south central and the Gulf region, winds generally from the east at 25 to 35. So again, look for small craft advisories on Tuesday. And Prince William Sound, winds generally from the northeast at 15 with seas as high as 3 feet. And down through the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from the north at 15 to 30 with seas as high as 10 feet. So again, look for small craft advisories there and near the Barren Islands. For Wednesday, looking at winds generally from a easterly direction in the Gulf region, 30 to 35 with seas as high as 10 feet. So again, look for small craft to gale force winds in there on Wednesday. And for Prince William Sound, winds generally from the east at 15 with seas as high as 3. And through the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from a variable direction, 15 to 25 with seas as high as 7 feet. Tuesday's marine forecast for Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island. Around Kodiak Island, winds generally from the east at 20 to 30 with seas as high as 10 feet. So look for small craft advisories in there on Tuesday. And for the south side Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from easterly direction to 15 with seas as high as 9 feet. And for the north side Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from the east at 15 to 20 with seas as high as 5 feet. For Wednesday, winds around Kodiak Island generally from an easterly direction, 25 to 35 with seas as high as 12 feet. So continued gale force winds in there On Wednesday, Southside Alaska Peninsula winds generally from a southeasterly direction to 25 with seas as high as 10 feet. So look for small craft advisories in there. And Northside Alaska Peninsula winds from the east at 25 with seas as high as 8 feet. For Tuesday's marine forecast, Aleutian Chain, looking at winds generally from a easterly direction up to 40 with seas as high as 19 feet. So look for gale force winds in there on Tuesday. And then for Wednesday, coming down a little bit, but winds generally from a variable direction. But out there in the western Aleutians, winds continue out of the east at 25 to 30 with seas as high as 16 feet. So look for small craft or gales out there on Wednesday. Tuesday's marine forecast for West Coast, winds generally from an easterly direction, 15 to 20 with seas as high as 6 feet near the Pribs. And for Wednesday, winds generally from a northeasterly direction, 25 to 30 with seas as high as 10 feet, again near the Pribilofs. For Tuesday's marine forecast for Arctic Coast, Beaufort Sea Coast winds generally from the east at 20 to 25 down through the Chukchi Sea coast, looking at winds generally from the east at 25, and down through the Bering Strait, winds generally from the east at 10 to 20. For Wednesday, looking at winds along the Beaufort Sea coast from a northeasterly direction to 20 with winds from the northeast along the Chukchi Sea coast 20 to 30, and down through the Bering Strait, winds generally from the north at 30. For tonight's weather, looking at high pressure to dominate most of Alaska with fog along the Arctic coast and in the Yukon Basin, otherwise blowing snow and snow showers along the west coast, mixed precipitation down through the Bristol Bay region into Cook Inlet, and that low out there in the western Aleutians. And for Tuesday, that low continues to push north over the western and central Aleutians on an occluder front, rain and snow associated with that, otherwise lingering snow showers across much of the mainland. On Tuesday, with a head of a trough as we watch the next system coming into the Gulf, otherwise rain and snow showers down through much of the southern.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.